The Torani exploration fleet drifted through the empty space, their smooth ships looking like water drops among the stars. Admiral Ta stood on the bridge of the Harmony, his tall blue form reflected in the polished floors. His crew worked quietly around him, each focused on their tasks as they mapped this new region of space. "Admiral, sensors show something unusual," said Officer Jun. His four-fingered hands moved quickly over the glowing controls. "It's very large, sir. Much bigger than any ship we've ever built." Admiral Ta walked closer to the main screen. "Show me." The image changed to show a distant object. As the computer enhanced the picture, Admiral Ta felt both his hearts beat faster. The unknown ship looked nothing like Torani vessels, where their ships were round and smooth. This one was sharp and angular. It had what looked like weapons covering its hull, and it moved with purpose. "It's 3 times larger than the Harmony," Jones said quietly. "And those appear to be weapon systems." The Torani had not built true warships in over 500 years. Their civilization had moved past violent conflict, focusing instead on art, science, and peaceful exploration. The ships in their fleet carried only basic defenses, enough to protect against space debris and the occasional pirate. "Try to make contact," Admiral Tad ordered. "Let's not jump to conclusions." Communications Officer Khan nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the light of her console. "Sending standard greeting on all frequencies." "Admiral." The bridge crew waited in tense silence. The Torani had met other species before, but all had been at similar technological levels and shared their peaceful outlook. This ship suggested something very different. "We're receiving a response," Hyun announced. "Visual communication request." "Accept it," said Admiral Tai, straightening his formal robes. The main screen flickered, and for the first time in history, the Torani looked upon a human face. The being on screen had skin in shades of tan and brown, with dark hair pulled back tightly. It wore a dark uniform with small symbols on the collar and shoulders. Most striking to Admiral Ta was how similar yet different this creature appeared. 2 arms instead of 4, no tail, and eyes that didn't glow like Torani eyes. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Nations, Starship Avalon," the being said in a clear voice, automatically translated by the Harmony's computers. "We come in peace, but stand prepared for all contingencies." Admiral Tai noted the careful wording. Peace was offered, but there was also a clear warning. These beings thought in terms of threat and safety. On the screen behind the human captain, Tai could see other humans moving efficiently around what was clearly a military command center. "I am Admiral Ta of the Torani Cooperative," he replied, making the traditional open-handed greeting gesture. "We welcome peaceful contact with your species." Captain Reyes nodded. "We are pleased to make contact with the Torani. Our mission is to explore and establish diplomatic relations with other intelligent life forms. We would be honored to exchange information about our respective species." Behind him, Admiral Ta heard his science officer whisper to another crew member. "Their ship design makes no sense for exploration. It's built for combat." He silently agreed. Everything about the human vessel spoke of readiness for conflict. The thick armor plating, the weapon ports, the way it positioned itself to always keep its main weapons facing the Torani fleet. These were not the choices of peaceful explorers. "We would be pleased to share cultural information," Admiral Ta said carefully. "Perhaps a small delegation from each side could meet." Captain Rice smiled. It was a gesture the Torani also used, which provided some comfort. "That would be acceptable. We can prepare a reception area for your representatives, or we would be willing to send a team to your vessel, whichever you prefer." Admiral Tai considered the options. Inviting these potentially dangerous aliens onto the Harmony seemed risky, but so did sending his people to a warship. Both, he decided. A small exchange. 2 of my officers will visit your ship if you will send 2 of yours to the Harmony. That way, both sides can learn while maintaining security. Captain Reyes nodded. "A wise precaution. I agree to these terms." As they worked out the details, Admiral Ta studied the human captain. She moved with precision, her words were carefully chosen, and her eyes constantly scanned her surroundings. This was a being trained for danger, who lived expecting threats. What kind of society produced such people? What had shaped their evolution to make them build such formidable vessels simply to explore? When the communication ended, Admiral Tai turned to his senior staff. Prepare for first contact protocols. Officer Da will lead our delegation. Sir, said his security chief, these humans, they're warriors. Everything about their ship, their posture, their communication suggests military training. Admiral Ta looked again at the massive human vessel on the view screen. Yes, and that makes them either valuable allies or terrible enemies. Let us hope for the former. As the two ships drifted closer together, neither the humans nor the Tauranid fully understood how this encounter would reshape the fate of both their species, and indeed, the entire galaxy. Officer Minho walked slowly through the wide metal hallway of the human ship. His four-fingered hand touched the cold wall, feeling the joins in the metal plating. Everything here was built with purpose. Two humans walked ahead of him, Lieutenant Dias and Security Officer Park. Behind Minho came Admiral Ta and Cultural Specialist Da, their tall blue forms making the human ceiling seem lower than it was. Your vessel is impressive, Minho said carefully, choosing simple words that would translate clearly. Lieutenant Dias smiled, her short black hair framing a face that showed clear pride. The Avalon is our newest Defender-class warship. She can engage targets across 3 light minutes and sustain combat operations for 6 months without resupply. The translator converted her words perfectly, but Minho still struggled to understand their meaning. Engage targets, combat operations. The Taurani language had these concepts, but they were rarely used in modern conversation. They passed through a set of heavy doors that slid open automatically. Inside was a room filled with humans working at various stations. Screens showed star maps, power levels, and what appeared to be weapon systems. This is our tactical center, explained Officer Park. From here, we coordinate all defensive and offensive operations. Admiral Tay's silver eyes narrowed as he studied the room. Minho knew what his leader was thinking. The Taurani had no equivalent spaces on their ships. Their vessels were built for science, exploration, and occasionally trade. Any defense systems they carried were automated and required minimal crew attention. How many weapon systems does the Avalon have? Asked Da, her role as cultural specialist pushing her to understand. 42 primary weapon emplacements, over 100 point defense systems, and launch bays for 24 fighter craft, replied Lieutenant Dias with no hesitation, as if reciting a familiar list, plus various special systems I'm not at liberty to discuss. Minho noticed Admiral Tay's tail twitch slightly, a sign of deep concern among their people. Later, they sat in a conference room with Captain Rice and several other high-ranking humans. The walls displayed images of Earth, showing cities, oceans, and mountains. Before we united as one planet, Captain Rice explained, humans fought many wars, countries against countries, ideologies against ideologies. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. You fought yourselves? Asked Da, her translator struggling to convey her confusion. We did, Rice acknowledged with a solemn nod. War shaped us, forced us to innovate, to become stronger. When we reached for the stars, we carried those lessons with us. The Taurani delegation looked at each other in silent shock. Their own history had early conflicts, but their species had unified peacefully over 4,000 years ago. The concept of continued warfare into an advanced technological age seemed incomprehensible. Please understand, added Commander Chen, another human officer, we don't seek conflict, but our history taught us to be prepared for it. Admiral Tai leaned forward. In our history, once we achieved global communication, peace naturally followed. The benefits of cooperation became obvious to all. A fortunate evolutionary path. said Captain Reyes. Humans required more. Convincing. The tour continued to an observation deck overlooking a large open space. Below, human crew members were engaged in what Lieutenant Diaz called emergency drills. Some humans played the role of injured personnel while others rushed to help them. In another section, crews practiced sealing breaches in the ship's hull. In yet another, armed teams moved in formation, responding to simulated intruders. Every crew member trains for combat scenarios weekly, explained Officer Park. From engineering to medical to science staff, everyone knows battle protocols. Minho watched as a young human woman efficiently treated a wounded crew member, applying bandages and injecting medicine before moving quickly to the next patient. Her face showed intense concentration, hands never hesitating. They prepare so thoroughly for destruction, whispered Officer June, who had just joined them from the Torani ship. No, corrected Admiral Ta quietly. They prepare to survive it. Captain Reyes invited them to the ship's dining area next. Unlike the functional, practical spaces they had seen so far, this room had art on the walls, paintings of old ocean vessels, star systems, and what appeared to be battles. As they ate foods from both their worlds, Cultural Specialist Day asked careful questions about human society. The answers painted a picture of a species that had endured tremendous hardship, natural disasters, plagues, wars, and environmental collapse, yet continued to advance. You seem troubled by our military preparedness, Captain Rice said to Admiral Tai after noting his quiet demeanor. We find it concerning, admitted the Admiral. In our experience, those who prepare for war often find it. Captain Reyes considered this. In our experience, those unprepared for war rarely survive it. The meal ended with expressions of friendship, but as the Torani delegation prepared to return to their ship, Minho noticed how differently they now viewed the humans. What had seemed like an exciting first contact had become something more complex, respect mixed with wariness. Back aboard the Harmony, Admiral Todd gathered his senior staff. These humans are unlike any species we have encountered, he said. They have technology equal to ours, but their thinking is entirely different. They see threats where we see opportunity. They prepare for conflicts we cannot imagine. Should we be afraid of them? Asked June. Admiral Ta looked out the viewport at the massive human warship. I don't know yet, but we should certainly be glad they offered peace before war. The reception room on the Avalon buzzed with conversation as humans and Torani shared food and stories. Admiral Todd watched with interest as his officers slowly relaxed around the humans. Even Cultural Specialist De, who had been most concerned about human military tendencies, now stood chatting with Lieutenant Diaz about Earth music. Captain Rice approached Admiral Todd with a small plate of food. I hope you're enjoying the gathering, Admiral. It seems our peoples have much to share with each other. Indeed, said Admiral Todd. Your chef has done well adapting recipes to our biology. The flavor is quite pleasant. A chime interrupted their conversation. Communications Officer Gunn's voice came through Admiral Tay's personal communicator, her tone urgent. Admiral, emergency communication from the Harmony. The room fell silent as Torani officers recognized the alert tone. Admiral Todd touched his communicator to accept the transmission. Speak, officer. Admiral, hegemony vessels approaching at high velocity. 7 battlecruisers. Designation. Combat formation. They will reach our position in 20 minutes. The mood shifted instantly. The Torani delegation tensed, their skin paling from rich blue to a light, almost white shade. Captain Rice watched this physical reaction with concern. Admiral, she asked. Admiral Todd turned to her, his silver eyes now dull with worry. We must return to our ships immediately and withdraw from this sector. Withdraw. Captain Rice looked confused. Who is approaching? The hegemony, said Cultural Specialist Da, her voice tight. A warrior species that has terrorized our outer colonies for generations. Captain Rice gestured to her officers, who quickly moved to tactical stations around the room. A large display lit up showing space around their ships. 7 large red dots approached rapidly. "Tell me about the hegemony," Rice said firmly. Admiral Ta spoke quickly as his officers prepared to leave. "They are conquerors. They demand resources and submission from all species they encounter. Those who resist are destroyed. Those who submit become slave worlds." "And you, submit?" asked Lieutenant Diaz. "We retreat," corrected Admiral Ta. "They are too powerful to fight. We have learned to detect their approach, evacuate our people, and abandon outposts before they arrive. It is the only way we survive." Captain Rice studied the tactical display showing the approaching fleet. The computer provided estimates of their weapon capabilities based on size and energy readings. "The hegemony, they're the reason your ships have defensive capabilities at all, aren't they?" she asked. "Yes," admitted Admiral Ta. "We developed shields to survive their raids long enough to escape." Ray straightened her uniform and looked at her senior officers. Some small signal seemed to pass between them, a look that contained an entire conversation. Then she turned back to Admiral Ta. "Admiral Ta, the Avalon will stand with you." The Torani leader blinked in surprise. "Captain, you don't understand." "Battle stations," Rice commanded, cutting him off. Immediately, the Avalon transformed around them. Red lights flashed, and an alarm sounded. Crew members rushed to positions. Heavy doors slid closed, sealing off sections of the ship. The pleasant reception area quickly emptied as humans moved to their combat posts. "Captain, the hegemony has superior numbers," protested Admiral Ta. "Your single ship cannot hope to defeat them." "Perhaps not," said Captain Rice, leading him toward the bridge. "But we can show them that your people are no longer easy targets." On the bridge, humans worked with calm efficiency. Screens showed the hegemony fleet approaching. Dark, angular vessels with jagged edges and glowing weapon ports. They moved in perfect formation, clearly experienced in coordinated attacks. "Get me a channel to the hegemony fleet," ordered Captain Rice. "Channel open, Captain," replied Communications Officer Kim. Captain Rice stood tall, her face showing no fear. "This is Captain Elena Rice of the UNSS Avalon to approaching hegemony vessels. You are engaging in hostile action against our diplomatic partners. Withdraw immediately or face consequences." After a moment, the main screen showed the hegemony commander. He had gray-scaled skin, sharp teeth, and yellow eyes with narrow slits for pupils. He looked first at Captain Rice, then at Admiral Ta standing behind her. "So, the Torani have found new friends," he hissed, his voice translated by the ship's computer. "Another species to subjugate. Your single vessel means nothing against our fleet." Captain Rice smiled thinly. "That remains to be seen." The hegemony commander laughed, showing rows of pointed teeth. "You do not know who you face, human. We have conquered 12 systems. We have destroyed 3 spacefaring civilizations that resisted us. Your ship will make a fine addition to our fleet once we capture it." "We have a saying on Earth," replied Captain Rice. "Don't count your chickens before they hatch." The translator struggled with this phrase, but the meaning was clear from her tone. The hegemony commander's face showed anger. "You will learn respect," he growled. "Prepare to be boarded." The screen went dark. Captain Rice immediately turned to her weapons officer. "Target the lead vessel's propulsion systems. Full power to forward shields. Launch all fighter squadrons." As the humans prepared for battle, Admiral Ta watched in amazement. No species had ever stood against the hegemony willingly. Yet these humans, with their single ship, showed no hesitation. "Captain," he said quietly, "you don't need to do this. This is not your fight." Captain Rice looked at him, her eyes steady and determined. "Admiral, where I come from, we stand with our friends. Today, that makes this our fight too." Outside the viewports, small fighter craft launched from the Avalon, moving to intercept the approaching hegemony fleet. The human warship's weapon systems hummed to life, ready for battle. Admiral Ta stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching the battle unfold on the main screen. He had ordered his ship to retreat to a safe distance, but not so far that they couldn't observe. The Torani crew around him watched in silence, their eyes fixed on the unfolding scene. The hegemony ships moved into attack formation. They had done this many times before against Torani vessels. Usually, by now, their targets would be fleeing at top speed. But the human warship Avalon did not run. It moved forward, directly toward the center of the hegemony fleet. "What are they doing?" whispered Officer June. "They're outnumbered 7-1. The lead hegemony vessel fired first. Bright energy beams shot across space toward the Avalon. The shots hit the human ship's shields, creating bright blue ripples that quickly faded. "No damage to their shields," reported the Harmony sensor officer. The human shields absorbed the full impact. The Avalon's response was immediate. Long metal rods shot out from its sides at incredible speed, driven by electromagnetic force. These railgun weapons, as the humans called them, struck the lead hegemony ship with perfect accuracy. The massive projectiles tore through the enemy ship's engines, leaving it spinning helplessly. "Impossible," breathed Da, the cultural specialist. One shot disabled their lead vessel. On the screen, the battle continued. The hegemony ships adjusted their tactics, spreading out to surround the Avalon. This strategy had always worked against the Torani. Surround them, cut off escape routes, then attack from all sides. But the human ship didn't try to escape. It accelerated toward the nearest hegemony vessel, firing continuous shots from multiple weapon systems. Bright energy beams cut through the enemy ship's shields. Small fighter crafts poured out from the Avalon's sides, swarming around another hegemony vessel like angry insects. "How do they predict the attack patterns?" asked Officer June, watching as the Avalon seemed to counter hegemony moves before they fully developed. "They don't," realized Da after a moment of study. "They're forcing the hegemony to react to them instead. The humans are controlling the battle." Admiral Ta had never seen warfare like this. The Torani had always believed that superior numbers would always win. That's why they never fought the hegemony. There were simply too many enemy ships. But the Avalon was showing that skill, technology, and tactics could overcome numbers. 3 hegemony vessels moved to surround the Avalon, concentrating their fire on one section of the human ship. Admiral Ta could see the shields there weakening, flickering under the assault. "They've damaged the Avalon's port side shields," reported the sensor officer. "Hull breach detected." Admiral Ta felt a moment of despair. Surely now the humans would realize their mistake. Surely they would retreat, as any sensible species would. Instead, the Avalon rotated quickly, presenting its undamaged shields to the enemy while continuing to fire. From the damaged section, small repair ships emerged, attaching themselves to the hull. Somehow, the humans were making repairs while still fighting. "Captain Rice is receiving a transmission from the hegemony commander," said the communications officer. On screen, they could see the hegemony commander's face. His earlier confidence was gone. His scales had darkened, a sign of stress in his species. "Captain," he transmitted, his voice lacking its previous arrogance, "what manner of species are you?" The screen split to show Captain Rice on the Avalon's bridge. Despite the battle raging around her, she stood calm and composed. A small cut on her forehead showed she had been injured, but she ignored it. "The kind that doesn't appreciate bullies," Rice replied simply. "Withdraw now. This is your final warning." The hegemony commander hissed. "We do not retreat. We have never." His transmission cut off suddenly as the Avalon launched a new attack. Multiple weapon systems fired simultaneously at the hegemony flagship. Energy beams cut through shields. Missiles followed, striking precisely where the shields had failed. In a bright flash, the hegemony flagship exploded. The Torani crew gasped collectively. In all their history of encounters with the hegemony, they had never seen one of their major ships destroyed. The remaining hegemony vessels broke formation. Their coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. One by one, they activated their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into the darkness of space. "They're retreating," said Officer June, his voice filled with disbelief. The hegemony is actually retreating. Admiral Ta could hardly believe what he had witnessed. For generations, his people had lived in fear of the hegemony. They had built their entire space strategy around avoiding conflict. And now, in a single battle, one human ship had done what the Turani thought impossible. "Open a channel to the Avalon," he ordered. When Captain Reyes appeared on screen, her bridge was filled with activity. Crew members worked to repair systems. Medical teams treated the injured. But despite this, the humans appeared calm, almost as if this level of combat was routine for them. "Captain Reyes," said Admiral Ta formally, "the Turani Cooperative owes you a debt that cannot be repaid. You fought for us when you had no obligation to do so." Captain Reyes smiled slightly. "That's what allies do, Admiral." "Allies," repeated Admiral Ta, testing the word. "Yes, I believe we are that now." Behind Captain Reyes, the Avalon's view screen showed the disabled hegemony ship, still drifting powerless. Several human shuttles approached it. "What will you do with the captured vessel?" asked Admiral Ta. "Study it, learn from it, and make sure the hegemony thinks twice before attacking your people again," replied Captain Reyes. "This is just the beginning, Admiral. If you're willing, we have much to teach each other." Admiral Ta looked around at his crew. For the first time in their lives, they weren't running from the hegemony. For the first time, they had stood, or rather, watched, as someone stood up to their tormentors. "Yes, Captain," he said firmly. "We have much to learn, and perhaps some things to teach as well." Admiral Ta walked slowly through the medical bay of the human ship. All around him, injured humans were being treated. Some had burns. Others had cuts from flying metal when parts of the ship broke during the battle. The smell was strange. Sharp medicines mixed with a scent that must be human blood. What amazed him most was not the injuries, but how quickly the humans returned to work. A young woman with a bandaged arm was already fixing a broken computer panel. A man whose leg had been wrapped in white cloth was standing at a workstation, testing equipment. "Your people recover so quickly," said Da, who walked beside Admiral Ta. She watched as a technician went back to his job just hours after doctors had removed metal pieces from his shoulder. Captain Reyes walked with them, her own small head wound now sealed with a clear medical gel. "Humans are adaptable," she explained. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us regularly. Then we spent millennia trying to kill each other. The survivors learned resilience." Admiral Ta thought about this. His own people, the Turani, evolved on a world with few large predators and a stable climate. They had developed cooperation early in their history. Violence was rare in their past. It made them peaceful, but perhaps too cautious. Later, they stood on the observation deck. Through the large windows, they could see outside the ship. Turani engineers in spacesuits worked alongside humans, fixing damage to the Avalon's outer hull. Blue-skinned Turani with their 4 arms worked well with the 2-armed humans. They were already teaching each other their repair methods. "The hegemony will return," said Admiral Ta, watching the repairs. "They've never experienced defeat before. Their response will be significant." Captain Reyes nodded. "Then perhaps it's time to discuss a formal alliance. Your technology and our tactical experience would complement each other well." She was right, thought Admiral Ta. The Turani had developed impressive shield technology to help them escape the hegemony. Their medical science was advanced. Their sensor systems could detect ships from great distances, but they lacked the human understanding of combat, strategy, and determination. "Our council will need to approve any alliance," said Admiral Ta. "But after what your ship did for us today, I believe they will agree." A human technician approached Captain Reyes with a data pad. She reviewed it quickly and nodded. "Good work, Ensign. Proceed with the repairs." After the technician left, Captain Reyes turned back to Admiral Ta. "We analyzed the weapon systems from the damaged hegemony ship. Their technology is not actually superior to yours. Their advantage was primarily in tactics and aggression. This surprised Admiral Ta. For generations, his people had believed the hegemony was technologically advanced beyond their capabilities. Learning that the difference was mainly in approach to combat changed everything. With human training, could the Torani learn to defend themselves? Asked Ta. Absolutely, said Captain Reyes. Your ships would need some modifications, but your people have the intelligence and technology. You just need the confidence and training. They watched as a mixed team of humans and Torani tested a newly repaired shield generator. The blue energy field flickered to life around a section of the hull. Your people fought wars that nearly destroyed you, said Admiral Tai, thinking about what he had learned about human history. Yet here you stand, stronger for it. Perhaps we have been too afraid of our own potential. Captain Rice looked thoughtful. And perhaps we could benefit from your perspective on peace. Every strength can become a weakness if relied upon exclusively. Admiral Tai understood. The human tendency toward conflict had made them strong, but also dangerous to themselves. The Torani avoidance of conflict had kept them peaceful, but vulnerable to aggressors like the hegemony. There is a middle path, said Admiral Ta. Strength without aggression, defense without conquest. A balance our peoples might achieve together, agreed Captain Reyes. Later that day, Admiral Tai returned to the Harmony. His crew greeted him with new energy in their eyes. They had watched the battle. They had seen what was possible when you stood your ground instead of running. Over the next week, human officers came aboard Torani ships to begin training programs. Torani engineers shared their shield technology with human scientists. Information and ideas flowed freely between the two species. 1 month later, Admiral Ta stood on the bridge of the Harmony. Through the view screen, he watched as his fleet performed new maneuvers alongside the Avalon. The Torani ships now moved with purpose, no longer just ready to flee at the first sign of danger. Report from Earth, Admiral, said Communications Officer Hyun. The Human Council has approved the Alliance Treaty. 5 more ships are being sent to our sector for joint operations. Admiral Ta nodded, feeling the new emotion that had been rare among his people, hope mixed with determination. And the hegemony? He asked. Our long-range sensors show they have withdrawn from 3 systems near our borders, reported Officer Jun. It seems the news of their defeat has spread. Admiral Ta looked out at the stars. For the first time in Torani history, they were not just explorers or refugees. They were becoming defenders of themselves and others who might face threats like the hegemony. A new chapter in galactic history had truly begun, and for both humans and Torani, the future suddenly held new possibilities neither had imagined before their chance meeting in the darkness of space. The end.